Hello and welcome back to the Prem Preview podcast. It's been a while since the first episode. A lot of things have happened, a lot of things have changed. Not just in terms of the Premier League, but here as well, we've got a bit of a different setup. Unlike the first episode, I'm by myself today. So we're going to start obviously with the title race and the great title race that it was between Liverpool and Manchester City. Obviously, as you all know, Manchester City did come out on top with a winning points total of 98 points, which is a phenomenal tally. It's just below their 100-point tally last season, however. But in terms of the title race as a spectacle, it was a lot better for the neutral fans. You had Liverpool pushing City all the way, and around January time it looked like City might have given it away, and just a form of both sides towards going into the running at the end of the season. It was pretty marvellous, and it's something that we've never really seen before. I mean, in the past Premier League title races have gone down to the last day, but in terms of consistency for both teams, I can't think of a title race where it's been so close, and that's testament to both teams. I mean, they've both been absolutely brilliant. Manchester City have sort of raised the bar now in terms of all English teams. You look at we had City, Liverpool, United, Arsenal, Chelsea, all in European competition into the latter stages as well. So as Sir Alex Ferguson did with Man United in the mid-2000s, in 2005, 6, 7 and 8, they always had a lot of English teams getting to the last stages of European competition, and in previous years English teams haven't done too well. But I think what Pep Guardiola has brought to the Premier League and the bar in terms of standard which him and his team have set, it's made everyone have to improve, and obviously you've seen that and how far English teams have gone in European competitions this season. Coming back onto the Premier League though, there is a bit of a debate regarding the title race as to whether Liverpool bottled it. I'm not going to say whether I think they bottled it or not, but at one point I think they had a 9-point lead going into the game at the Etihad, which Manchester City obviously won. I mean, 9 points, it sounds like a lot, but I guess in terms of February, at that point in the season, when you've got to play, I think Liverpool still had to play Spurs, United, Everton away, so they had in a hard run, and they had that spell. I think they drew 5 and 7 to the likes of United, Everton, Leicester, and West Ham. So there is an element of whether Liverpool did slip up slightly, and with the quality that Manchester City have, you have to be, if you're going to compete with them, you have to be at your top week in, week out. That I'm not taking anything away from Liverpool. I mean, they've been absolutely sensational. The likes of, last season it was mainly Salah that was chipping in with the goals, but Mane has really stepped forward as well, and they've got goals from all over the pitch with the likes of Keita and Henderson popped up with a few. You've got Fabinho patrolling that midfield, and they have been really, really good this season. And any other season, yes, they would have won the league, but you could say hindsight's a great thing, isn't it? But I think it's going to be very hard for the likes of Chelsea, Arsenal, United, Tottenham, who finished so far away from the likes of Manchester City, Liverpool. They really have to be. Some clubs know what they need, and some clubs are lacking a bit of direction. But it's going to be very difficult, I think, for any team this next season. Maybe not in the next 5, but especially for the next couple of seasons, I think it is going to be them and Liverpool City and Liverpool, fighting out for it again. Which, I mean, from a neutral point of view, if the title race is going to be that close every season, then it only makes for a great Premier League, and it's going to raise the bar even more, and obviously that means more English teams in the last stages of European competition as well. Another topic involving the title race is whether, obviously, Manchester City did complete a domestic treble, which has never been done before, so i.e. the League Cup, the FA Cup and the Premier League. However, there's been comparisons to the likes of the treble winners of 1999 and the invincible sides at Arsenal in the early 2000s. Is this the greatest Premier League side of all time? I mean, it really is up for debate. I mean, you look at the treble winners and the invincible squad of Arsenal as well. There were some great players in that team, and obviously at that time, Man United and Arsenal were the two biggest teams in the country. But the thing that may tarnish whatever City do is this constant cloud over their finances and the spend, because they have for not to be fair, not recently. I think they've calmed down in terms of spending compared to how they were when Sheikh Mansour first took over at the Etihad. But there is, for a lot of people, there is a cloud over anything that City achieve and says, oh, it's down to money, which is it's an interesting argument, but at the same time, money doesn't always guarantee success, and you have to have things in place to be successful. And yes, City have spent a lot of money, and whether they're balancing their finances correctly or not, or by the war or not, it's bad. If they're found guilty, then for me that does tarnish everything they've done. However, you still have to perform out on the pitch. The manager and the coaching staff still have to get the best out of the players, and testament to Manchester City, they've done that for the last 2 seasons, and they've been far and away the best team in the country. They are a very well run club, City. They have constant backing of the manager, the youth set up with the whole youth complex. It is a very well run club, and you look down at some of the top clubs in this country, direction and leadership isn't as it should be, but we will get onto that later. So, as I was saying, with comparing the teams, I do think it's difficult to compare teams now than 20 years ago, because so much has changed in football. I mean, so much has changed in the space of 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. It is an awful long time. So it is very hard to compare. But the only thing this Manchester City team can keep doing is to win things, and with the backing that Guardiola has, the direction of the club and how it's run, and the players they've got, and the constant investment, you can't look past another good 5 to 10 years of success for Manchester City. And as I said previously, for the foreseeable future, it only looks as if Liverpool are going to be the ones to challenge that. So that's the title race sort of wrapped up now. So we'll move down to the top 6, the rest of the top 6. So Tottenham, Chelsea, Arsenal, Man United. So we will start with the team that did end up finishing in third, which is Chelsea. A very interesting season, I'd say, for Chelsea. I think that the amount of criticism that Maurizio Sarri has come under in his first season in the new league, with not really his new players, because they didn't spend an awful amount in the summer window, and I don't think Abramovich is as interested as he was in terms of investing in Chelsea. I think he deserves a lot more respect than he's got. I think to finish not fourth, wasn't third, to finish third in what was a tie, great for Champions League football this season. To have finished third and be in a Europa League final, and we've seen in the past when teams do go quite far in the Europa League, the league form does tend to to be sacrificed, and I think it is a massive credit to Maurizio Sarri that he has managed to cope with that. And they've got Champions League football, and they've got a very good chance of winning the trophy against Arsenal, who are in the final with. So I think for Chelsea, it was I had them down as a bit of a dark horse for the title, personally, at the start of the season, because I think they did hit some really good form. Not necessarily in terms of performance, but in terms of results, they were really turning out some good results. And I think a lot of doubts have been cast over Sarri and whether he is the right man. But the model at Chelsea, it isn't for a manager to come in and have 10 years. It is maybe win the title in your first season. If you do, great, you can stay on. If you don't, then you might not be here next season. And that's the model it has been since Abramovich has took over, rightly or wrongly. But as I said about Manchester City before, these clubs have certain types of models, and Chelsea have been successful. So there is. I don't agree with the way that Chelsea deal with the managers and the model of the club that comes with it. But at the end of the day, football is there to be successful, and they have been. And I think in terms of this season, there's been constant doubt over the future of Eden Hazard, which hasn't helped, I'd imagine. Hasn't helped the manager. So I really do think Maurizio Sarri he's had a very good first season. Very good first season. Very, very good first season. He was unlucky in the Carabao Cup final as well. So he's reached 2 finals and finished in the Europa League final, which is yet to be played, and he might be successful in that too. Coming on to the team who finished in 4th now, Tottenham Hotspur, again in a European final, the Champions League final. Weird season for Tottenham, I'd say. I think around January, February, I think they were in with a realistic shout at the title. Looking at who the type of teams Man City and Liverpool had to still to play. Spurs had to play those 2 teams as well, so they were. I did think they were in with a shout. However, it was a weird one, the time that they actually did sort of drop off, because it was when Harry Kane came back, and when he came back, everyone thought, right, they can kick on from here now. But when he came back from injury at that time, they did sort of slump, and it's a weird one. I think with Tottenham and Kane, I do actually think they're a better team without him. I think when Kane's playing, he's a great goal scorer, he's a great player, he's a talisman for Tottenham. However, he's such a focal point that when he gets the ball, he does tend to be, I believe, he does tend to be quite greedy, and he'll tend to shoot. Whereas I think if you've got the likes of Son and Moura and Llorente in that team, being the forwards, I think you've got a lot more chance of some interplay and a lot more passing in and around the box. Whereas if Kane was in there, he's opening up his body and he's going to try and finish. But at the end of the day, Kane is a striker and he's always going to try and score goals. But I do think that they are slightly better suited to playing without Harry Kane. For a while now for Tottenham, the league has not been irrelevant, but I think they have had their heart set on the Champions League, and I think you saw with the reaction after the comeback away at Ajax in the semi-final, the reaction of Maurizio Pochettino. You can tell how bad he does want this, and I think towards the end of the season, naturally, for a team like Tottenham to be in the Champions League final, then players aren't going to be banging into tackles in league matches, because the simple fact they won't want to get injured, because for a lot of these Tottenham players it's the biggest game of their career so far. So they aren't going to want to risk it, which is only natural. At the end of the day, that's just being human. But all in all, for Tottenham, yeah, it was okay. I mean, they managed to qualify for top 4, which I don't think anyone expected not to. And again, they've reached a European Cup final, which is for them, not for any team, is absolutely fantastic. Good luck to Tottenham. Good luck to Liverpool also. and yeah, made the best team win out there in Madrid. But anyway, that's enough about Champions League. This is the Prem Preview podcast, and we focus on the Premier League. Coming back onto the Premier League now, the team who finished in 5th place, but again, are also in a European competition final, the Europa League this time. Arsenal. I think for the squad that Unai Emery has inherited and the additions that he made, I think he's done a good job. As Sarri has. Arsenal is sort of the prime example of what you'd expect from an average team who are challenging for top 4 but are in the Europa League as well. I think they have performed better in the Europa League. I think they're better suited to that competition than they were in the Premier League. Unai Emery has a hat-trick of Europa Leagues with Sevilla, so he knows that competition very well, and obviously with it being his first season in the Premier League, I don't think it was a bad season for Arsenal, and their fan base are quite renowned for being very demanding, and rightly or wrongly. So I don't think you can take much away from Arsenal or Emery. I think they can feel reasonably happy, and of course, yes, they finished outside the top 4, but being in the Europa League final, you win that, you have the chance to get back into the Champions League, and always the season isn't over for Arsenal. Their fans will be hoping, obviously, they can win their first European trophy because they're yet to win a European competition, and of course they want to be back with Europeans elite after a lengthy spell away from Champions League football. But all in all, same with Tottenham, same with Chelsea. I don't think it could be considered a bad season for Arsenal. Maybe that might change if they don't manage to win the Europa League. But I think with it being Unai Emery's first season and being in the Europa League, it is always difficult. It's not ideal for any manager. But I don't see any reason why Arsenal can come away massively disappointed. One set of fans that can come away from their season feeling very disappointed is Manchester United. It's been a very topsy-turvy season for Man United, but all in all, it hasn't been good enough for a club that you renowned to be the biggest in this country. Obviously, there's a fly there. They started the season out with Jose Mourinho, and their pre-season didn't really go very well, and there was doubts cast over the likes of Pogba and Martial and some really good players, and then Mourinho's disconnect from the board, it did sort of spell the end for Jose, and the final nail in the coffin for him was the defeat at Anfield. So then United go out and appoint a caretaker manager. That caretaker manager was former player Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Raised a few eyebrows, but people just thought that, and myself included, people just thought that it was going to be a nice Solskjaer, Mr. Happy, he'll cheer everyone up, might win a few games. But to Solskjaer's credit, and the players, well, can you give the players credit? It's a difficult one because there was a massive rise in terms of performance level when Solskjaer took over at United. The first couple of games, it was obvious that the players were just happy to be playing expansive football again and allowed to create themselves. But as it got to about 8-10 games under Ole for United, you could see that there was some serious tactical nous with him, and they had the massive high of beating Paris in the Champions League, and that was such a great comeback for them. And when Ole came in, after Mourinho's sacking, no one thought Man United were ever in with a chance of top 4 this season, but the results under Solskjaer did get them back in the race, and it looked at one point that they would be in a very good position to qualify. But as I mentioned the Paris game briefly there, after that it was a massive decline. Not necessarily in terms of performance straight away, just in terms of results. I mean, Man United had beaten Paris, and the next game they lost to Arsenal, but they actually played it quite well, and then to Wolves, and then they just sort of became a roll-on effect of poor results, and then the poor performances came, and then towards the end of the season there was so much anger from Man United fans towards the club and towards the players, but none of it really towards Solskjaer, because I think Man United fans know that the problem at the club goes a lot deeper than the likes of just the managers, and but for a lot of Man United's season, it doesn't seem like there's been a lot of effort from some star players, and Man United fans haven't enjoyed this season at all, especially with the likes of Liverpool, Manchester City being so successful. It hasn't made for a good season at all for Manchester United, and the success of Liverpool and Man City have had only magnifies the problems at a club like Man United. Why aren't they competing where they should be? So a very, very poor season for a club like Manchester United, in any circumstance, but I think everyone knows that there is a big job to be done at Manchester United, and a big rebuild is needed, and there's talks of a director of football coming in and things like that, so you can't really judge Solskjaer, I don't think, until next season when he has signed his own players, because he was dealing with even going back to Louis van Gaal players and Jose Mourinho players, so you have to judge him next season, and if the same problems are arising, then it's going to be a problem again for Man United. But all in all, in comparison to the other teams around him, it hasn't been good enough at all, and Man United fans will just be hoping that things can only get better from here, because it has been a very dull and disappointing season for them. Coming on to the relegation battle now, I think people had a few names down at the start of the season for who were going to go straight away, and I think Huddersfield were in there, and I think Cardiff were in there also. Both of them teams did actually end up going down. I think Huddersfield were doomed from the start. It wasn't a nice season for Huddersfield at all, and I think most people knew it. I think Huddersfield fans knew it as well, that this was going to be the season where they go back down. I think for a club like Huddersfield as well, they're going to struggle to come back up straight away as some teams do. There more yo-yo clubs that will come up and come down. I don't think Huddersfield will be like that, unfortunately for them. I think they're going to dwindle away in the mid-table of the Championship and possibly be scrapping for relegation down to League One in the Championship next season. One team who I did feel were very unlucky to go down was actually Cardiff. Obviously they had the horrific tragedy of what happened to Emiliano Sala in January, but from there I think Cardiff really showed some fight, and they did pick up some big results, and it looked at a point where they might actually stay up, and I think the defining moment for them in that relegation battle was the defeat to Chelsea, where the referees and the officials did massively let them down, and that all but sealed the fate, I think. But to be fair to Cardiff, they didn't just throw the towel in. The players didn't just go on the beach. They ended their season on a high, winning 2-0 away at Old Trafford, which is a massive achievement for a team like Cardiff, who have never even won at Old Trafford. So to end the season like that, and of course it's been reported as well that Neil Warnock will be staying on as manager, which I think is fantastic for them, because I think that does give them a real chance of coming straight back up, because love him or loathe him, and people have their opinions of Neil Warnock. He isn't a Premier League manager. He openly admits he's not at that level of manager, but the Championship he does tend to do very well, and I think keeping hold of him, I think Cardiff do have a real chance to go straight back up. The third and final team to go down this season was Fulham. I think Fulham suffered from a number of different things. I think their investment in the summer was very wild. I think they just signed players for the sake of signing players. I think they brought in 19 players in the summer, which for any club is ridiculous. You can't embed 19 players in a squad and expect it to all work out rosy, and obviously it didn't. They had the manager get sacked at the first stage of the season, and then they bring in Claudio Ranieri, who it never worked out for either, and they finished the season with Scott Parker. And to be fair to Scott Parker, I actually think Fulham's performance has massively stepped up in that period, and they seem to actually be enjoying themselves a bit more and a bit more free to be a bit more creative, and I think they really enjoyed that. And I think maybe if Fulham had stuck with Scott Parker before, instead of bringing in Claudio Ranieri, they might have had a better chance of staying up, because I genuinely could see a difference in terms of performance when Scott Parker did take over. And looking ahead for Fulham next season, I think it could be difficult for them, maybe. But with the parachute payments that relegated Premier League clubs do get, maybe Fulham will have learned from last summer and realise don't need to go out and spend money like it's going out of fashion and bring in so many players. You just need to fix one or two areas, and maybe that might solve their problem. Look ahead to next season now. As I've said at the start of this podcast, I do think it's going to be very difficult for anyone to try and catch the likes of Liverpool and Manchester City. But having said that, no, it's going to be massively difficult for anyone to do it. Chelsea have a transfer ban, so they can't sign anyone, and ultimately I think they will lose Eden Hazard this summer. Arsenal, to go from 5th to even challenging is a very big jump. I think Tottenham are going to lose Mauricio Pochettino in the summer, regardless of what happens in the Champions League final. Obviously you had Allegri leaving Juventus earlier this week as well, so maybe Pochettino has his eyes set on that job. But everything sort of points towards that he will leave after the Champions League, in my opinion. And for United, I think their rebuild is going to take a lot longer than one summer. I think it's going to take a good 3 to 5 years for Man United to get to that level of Liverpool and Manchester City. So you really do have to just say that it looks like it's going to be a repeat of this season in terms of the title race. Liverpool and City probably will go all the way again. You look at the investment that those teams could make, and it is very difficult to point out a weak spot in their team. City only signed one player this summer, and it was Riyad Mahrez, and to still get to a Champions League quarter final and do a domestic treble, it's impressive. Liverpool obviously signed the likes of Alisson and Fabinho, transformed their team, and gave them a really good chance. I think in terms for the likes of Chelsea and Arsenal and Tottenham, United, I think it's going to be much of the same again. I don't think too much is going to change towards the upper end of the table. United are going to be struggling for the top 4 again, but again that all depends on investment for them. Chelsea losing Hazard is going to be difficult, as I've said. Arsenal might improve, they might have Europa League football next season or Champions League, we don't know yet. If they've got Europa League, I think it could be very much similar for them. Obviously if they win the Europa League this season, go to the Champions League, and playing Tuesday, Saturday is a lot easier than playing Thursday, Sunday for whatever reason. I don't know why. It's just one of them things in professional football. I think it'd be great if you see a side like Watford or Wolves or Everton, they try and really break into that top 6, and I think it'd be great to see from a neutral point of view, and obviously it's always good to try and see different clubs try and be successful in their own right, rather than just the traditional teams of the likes of Man United and Arsenal and Chelsea and people like that. So next season for the likes of West Ham, Wolves, people like that, it could be a very good season for them. But I think investment and trying to keep hold of some of their better players is going to be an interesting event over the summer. Looking down the table next season then, two of the teams that have come up, Norwich and Sheffield United, I think probably both go back down. I actually fancy whoever wins the playoff to actually last at least one season in the league, so either be Aston Villa and Derby. So that'll be interesting to see next season. I mean, could a team like Brighton be dragged into it? Obviously they sacked Chris Hughton. Could a team like Brighton be dragged into it, or a team like Burnley? You know, if they outlived their Premier League status, we'll see next season. Maybe Bournemouth, you know, maybe they've rolled their luck one too many times. We're dropping off after Christmas, so we'll have to wait and see. But next season does promise to be interesting, obviously. And as a fan of the Premier League, it's the standard of football has been so much better, and it makes for a better spectacle. And I'm sure this is the best league in the world, in my opinion, for the past 5 to 10 years. Maybe we just got too comfortable with saying it's the best league in the world when it actually wasn't. But to be fair, a lot of success from different countries does come in cycles. It does go very much. Spain will have a period of success, England will have a period of success, Italy will have a period of success, and then Germany, then it'll come back round, and it does go in cycles. I mean, back in 2008, I think it was, we had Barcelona and Man United in the semi-final, and Chelsea and Liverpool in the semi-final of the Champions League. 3 out of 4 teams it's ridiculously good. And obviously the following year as well, Man United and Chelsea both were in the semi-finals. So the standard of Premier League football has gotten so much better, and it's raised the bar, and you've seen that with the Europeans, as I've already said this season. So we're going to call a day on this Premier League season, and we're going to call a day on this podcast episode. It's been enjoyable. I've enjoyed reviewing the season, and hope you guys watching at home, you'll enjoyed the discussion. And feel free to get into the comments and get into a bit of discussion with me. What did you agree with anything I said? Did you disagree? Is there any points you'd like me to raise in a next episode? Possibly get it all in. Share it with anyone that you think might be interested. Just try and give me as much feedback as you can on this video, so I know what I can do in the future for you guys, because I love talking about football and the Premier League, so for me to carry on doing something that I really enjoy, it's important. So give it a like and a comment, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Goodbye.